Well, it's part of Eastern Aranda country, the Aranda being the traditional custodians of all this country for thousands of years, or at least centuries. And it's also was a place that one of our early explorers mentioned, Barclay mentioned it, that it was a place for Aborigines to gather for their ceremonies and so on from time immemorial. I think it's a good expression, time immemorial, from that longer term perspective. And one side of the rock hole where the main water is, that was the reason for selecting that site for the telegraph station, relates to the Euro or hill kangaroo mythology, or dreaming as it's called here, and the other side to the various caterpillar mythologies. So you've got an important meeting place of those mythological people, but it's also a meeting place for humans, and therefore gift exchange of items, so that you might have the Eastern Aranda would bring in their, say, their bean seed necklaces and boomerangs, and you might get the Mudgera, which are the Northern Aranda sort of speaking people. They would come in with bean tree shields, say, from the north. You get Western Aranda people all invited in for these ceremonial.
So do we know how the Aranda people felt when white people suddenly turned up?
We don't have a good idea for right there. We have some ideas elsewhere around the place where the initial viewing of, say, Stuart's horses when they came through were that they were monsters. There's a particular terminology for the Aranda word for that sort of an idea of a monster animal or a demon animal of some kind, and they were dumbfounded at the size of them, and their in some cases they thought the humans riding them were the children of them, or from a distance they thought they were one animal. So you have that fearful reaction. Then you also had a sense in some cases of these are invading people, these monsters are invading, and therefore they should have given warning, they should have been open about their appearance. Suddenly they've just appeared. So you have a sense of invasion into country without any right to do that, and therefore you get a response which is fearful in one case, where people flee from seeing these animals or these monsters, and then others where they react angrily and try and drive them away.
So were there no accounts of the first white people to arrive at that area, of their interactions with Aboriginal people?
I have no record of it myself. I've got records of Stuart and other people, but not of the telegraph station.
I see.
There's an early account by the Western Aranda where they gave it a name meaning hard head for the buildings. So you had that sense of the buildings being stone, and then you have an iron roof, and that relates to that. Some people said it related to the people inside them.
Like so many sites, though, in Alice Springs, so many places around Central Australia, it's of significance. Obviously, it was picked as a place of an important place by white people. Why, as well as Aboriginal people, why was that particular area? How did the telegraph station come to be chosen as the telegraph station?
Well, John McDowell Stewart, the explorer, had travelled through to the west of Alice Springs, roughly 50 kilometres. He travelled through in 1860, and he had indicated to the people they would not be able to get wagons through if they wanted to build the telegraph line. Even his early accounts, they had in mind a telegraph line. And so when the telegraph line was decided upon in the 1860s, and then you had the follow-up of 1870 to 72 when they were trying to find a way through the ranges. There's an explorer called John Ross went out to the east, and he didn't find the way through the range. He came very close because he found the Todd River and named that after Sir Charles Todd, who was only a few hundred kilometres south by the time he got back to report on that. and then you had various people came up and they followed Stuart's route out to the west of Alice Springs, found that they couldn't get through as he'd reported, and there were various people trying to find a way through, and a man called William Whitford Mills passed through the Hugh Gorge area out to the west and then rode around to the north, looking at the lie and the drop of the land, and he came in from the north seeing the drop of the land through what we know as the Bond Springs country, and through that he came into this area, and he said there are several springs here, which indicates it was a very good year. It was a lot of rain at the time when they were trying to get through, and so you had a sense of springs and water flowing, and he said the principal one of which I've named Alice Spring, just one, we call Alice Springs now, but it was Alice Springs. That was named after Sir Charles Todd's wife, I believe.